Story 1. I make more money than I ever have, yet I can't afford anything more than I used to. I did not expect this to gain so much attention, but I really think this comment thread speaks volumes. Hopefully, the people in charge of prices will see this thread and take action. Story 2. I believe it affected my memory. It has improved, but I do not think it will ever return to what it was or could have been. My fitness also declined. Financially, I managed to get through it, but I believe there are long-term health deficits. Story 3. I was a fat, poor, depressed, and lonely 30-year-old. I worked as a caretaker for a disabled person in a wheelchair. He was a high-risk individual, and all his daily activities were canceled due to the pandemic. The only thing we could do every day was go for walks. We walked for several kilometers daily. I lost some weight, which motivated me to change other aspects of my life. I started eating better and lost even more weight. This boosted my confidence to try to meet someone. I began speaking to a woman on a dating app, and after 2 weeks, I went on the very first date of my life with her. We hit it off, kept seeing each other, became a couple, and I felt real love for the first time. She lived in the next town over, and after a bit more than a year, we decided to move in together. This meant I had to find a new job in her town. I applied for several caretaker positions, but none could match the salary I requested. On a whim, I also applied for a train driver school. After a lot of tests, I was accepted. It took a lot of courage for me to not choose the safe path of continuing as a caretaker. Instead, I embarked on a whole new career. After a year of studying and practice, I graduated and was hired as a train driver at a company I love. Now, I have worked as a train driver for over a year and am happier than ever. Money is not everything, but I have increased my salary by more than 50% compared to my last job. My dad has always said that you should save up 2 months' salaries for emergencies. At the moment, I have 3. The pandemic changed my life for the better. I'm still a bit overweight, but I'm working on it, and I am no longer depressed. I have a great, fulfilling job that pays well and a wonderful partner I could not live without. She makes me happier, kinder, and more confident. We are a great team, and I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with her. Story 4. Better. COVID made remote work a common practice. Thanks to that, I was able to move abroad to a much nicer place and find a better paying job. Story 5. On balance, things are worse. My mom died from COVID-19. I'm less healthy and have much less money. I now work from home. I am married and have a cute dog. Story 6. I have had COVID-19 3 times and long COVID for 4 years. Before all of this, I was still able to work full-time. Now I can barely stand for 5 minutes. I am much worse off. Story 7. Worse. I contracted COVID-19 in 2020 and now have permanent nerve damage, specifically trigeminal neuralgia. I do not wish this pain on anyone. Story 8. Social life was seriously affected after COVID. I became more isolated and distant. However, in other aspects, I am doing well. I often reflect on my experiences. Story 9. Worse. I went from being financially stable with a brighter future ahead after becoming debt-free and having a good amount of disposable income to being $40,000 in debt and barely making it each month due to a medical crisis. But I'm hanging in there. Story 10. Worse. Materially, I am fine, but the post-public health environment has been significantly altered. Over 1 million Americans died, and we fell into a state of denial regarding science, where other infectious diseases previously thought to be eliminated are resurging. We learned that many diseases can be airborne, and our response seems to be that vulnerable individuals should just suffer because that is preferable to wearing a mask in public. More people are getting sick more often now, likely as a result of immune damage from repeated COVID infections. It's truly disheartening to see. Our governments created consent for the idea that this is the new normal, and most people seem to accept it. Story 11. Working in public health is challenging. The increase in funding we received 5 years ago has disappeared, and now we are facing further cuts. The grant that supports my program has been reduced, and I will be let go in May. I am concerned about my financial future, but I am also worried about the next public health crisis we may face. We were not prepared for COVID-19, but at least we had staff to develop contact tracing and vaccination programs. This time, we do not have those resources. Story 12. I am less happy. I have watched people I once considered reasonable become fully radicalized into the Trump movement. I am more financially secure but have less direction in life than ever. It is very confusing. Despite the money we have, I do not feel secure spending it. There is nobody decent left to do business with because all the people who knew what they were doing are retired. Story 13. I believe I was just unlucky. I've had COVID-19 3 times. I used to be fit and healthy, regularly swimming, cycling 300 miles a week, and running 110K a week. Now, I have a heart condition and sarcoidosis, but it's probably just a coincidence. Story 14. Significantly worse in almost every way. The original COVID-19 pandemic triggered a latent autoimmune condition that has had major, lasting, and severe effects on my health, well-being, and ability to work. I am not sure I will ever return to where I was. As a yoga teacher and studio owner, I lost a substantial amount of income several times over, and my finances and work life may never return to what they were. Major differences in the COVID-19 response almost wrecked my marriage, and it may never be what it once was. I dislike answering this question, but amidst the sentiment of great, lockdown was bliss and now I work from home, I feel it is important to speak up for the other side. Story 15. I am in a much worse situation. I earn more money now, but I can afford much less. I am barely making ends meet, and rent is due soon. I have also contracted COVID-19 twice and am still dealing with long COVID, so I have essentially been fatigued for what feels like 2 years. Life is challenging, and it seems to be getting worse for me. Story 16. I used to believe that most of my fellow Americans were misled. After so many Americans have died, with people fighting against vaccines, groups marching and coughing on others, and individuals invading stores without masks while re-electing the former president, I now think that a significant portion are beyond help. We are all going to face consequences because of them. I find the political discourse frustrating, and I am disheartened by many of my fellow Americans. Story 17. Worse. My mental health took a significant hit, leading to a series of compounding factors from which I still haven't recovered. Story 18. I have a better job, earning twice as much with half the amount of stress. The COVID-19 pandemic made me reflect on life's priorities more closely. They say that if you want to improve your situation, you need to work hard and take initiative, even if it involves making tough choices, and that's what I did. No regrets. Story 19. Worse. I have long COVID, which means I haven't been able to smell or taste for nearly 5 years. I experience health problems and often feel sore and tired, even with minimal activity. Breathing difficulties have also emerged, leading me to avoid socializing or engaging in activities I once enjoyed. I used to be active and loved exploring new places, but now it feels like my health is on a time limit. Financially, I have not been able to work as I did before, resulting in a decreased income. Additionally, spending on hobbies has increased significantly as many people engage in reselling as a side hustle. Everyday costs have risen due to inflation, while my wages remain unchanged since before COVID. Story 20. I never got better after my last COVID infection, and I now have chronic nerve pain, migraines, and constant debilitating exhaustion. It is hell. Story 21. COVID affected me significantly. I was a driven entrepreneur and high-level athlete before I contracted COVID-19 5 times and spent over $200,000 on medical bills to overcome a stroke, tinnitus, vertigo, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, renal failure, heart palpitations, chronic fatigue syndrome, daily anxiety attacks, weight gain, depression, irritable bowel syndrome, and recurrent blood clots, along with brain fog and bruxism. I eventually turned to alternative medicine and have overcome 95% of these issues. I am focused on reclaiming my former life. However, with the economy in the United States being what it is, I doubt I will see that happen soon. Regardless, I remain committed to keeping my hope alive, as I have watched everything else get taken from me, and I refuse to let my hope go as well. Story 22. I miss COVID. My family was working from home, and we had a great time together. We enjoyed family coffee breaks and motivated each other. My best friend was also alive. Story 23. I got rid of a toxic boyfriend about 6 months into COVID-19, and in 2022, I found a new job that pays better, has excellent benefits, and a time-off package. My old job is struggling. It turns out I was actually holding it together with bubble gum and duct tape. From what I understand, my ex is still a walking disaster. I have a new partner who cherishes me, a new home, a new car, and joy in my life. Am I frustrated with the rising costs post-COVID-19? Absolutely. Do I realize I am incredibly blessed to have abundance in my life and a joyous family? Absolutely. Story 24. It was much easier when people stayed home. I could go to places like the grocery store much more freely, as I have severe scent sensitivity and cannot handle perfume. I also got sick less because everyone was wearing masks. Story 25. I contracted COVID-19 several times while working long shifts and being pregnant. My body has never been the same. Although I maintain the same weight, I experience more chronic fatigue. My brain fog has improved, thank goodness, but my weakness has not gone away. Since I am a larger woman, no one recognizes that my legs used to be very strong. Ever since getting COVID-19, climbing stairs has become much more challenging. Overall, being active is much more difficult. I have also gotten older. Story 26. I gained a lot of weight during 1 year of lockdown. I am on track to lose some of it, but it has been a multi-year effort. Story 27. Worse, I caught COVID in November 2020 before the vaccine. Since then, my childhood allergies have returned worse than ever, and I was told I will be on allergy shots for life. This year, my childhood asthma came back so severely that I can no longer use an albuterol inhaler. I am currently stuck inside using a budesonide/formoterol inhaler every 12 hours and taking prednisone every morning. I am not even allowed to receive my allergy shots again until allergy season has ended and my asthma is under control. Story 28. I still have post-traumatic stress disorder from working in the intensive care unit. It's better, but lately, with the current events, it's been flaring up. I can't wait for another mental health breakout and pandemic 2.0. Story 29. I met my soon-to-be wife at a gathering in a park during the COVID-19 pandemic. We bought an apartment together, and our son is now 14 months old. Dating during lockdown, with this new person being my only social relationship, was interesting. We spent more time together in the first year than what you would normally do in a few years, I imagine. Story 30. Much worse. COVID revealed how unintelligent, easily manipulated, selfish, and cruel many people can be. Story 31. Job-wise, it has been great. COVID-19 was an opportunity to change my career, and the risk paid off. However, my love life has gotten worse every year since then. Story 32. I had COVID-19 in July of 2020. Life was rough. I couldn't breathe. I went to the emergency room twice. The doctor said that if I came back again, I wouldn't make it home. My family rallied together and got me a portable oxygen generator. I did some research and bought LL37, a peptide. I stopped the breathing treatments and the medication the hospital had given me, and I had to sign a waiver just to go home. In the 3 weeks after, I felt terrible, and then one day I woke up feeling refreshed and rested. I continued using oxygen for another week, along with daily injections of LL37 for 2 weeks. 5 years later, my lungs are still scarred from COVID-19, and I have no sense of smell. Story 33. Looking back, the COVID-19 pandemic felt peaceful. Yes, even I, as an introvert, felt very lonely, but it was peaceful since every country was busy dealing with their own issues and did not have time to start conflicts everywhere. Story 34. I improved. We had to redirect everything because we lost our jobs. However, things got better. I also started training and have not stopped since then. Story 35. I never contracted COVID-19, and I am much better off. I secured a new temporary job at the beginning of the pandemic, and 8 months later, I was hired permanently. My salary has increased every year since I was hired. I am looking forward to retiring next year with a small pension. Story 36. My mental health was never the same after COVID-19. Being cooped up in my apartment for so long really affected me. I had to overcome some agoraphobia in 2021. Story 37. Things are good. COVID-19 helped me secure a big promotion, and I just received a raise. I have 8 to 10 weeks of vacation a year. I enjoy a stable work-life balance. Certainly, I can't complain. Story 38. COVID gave me significant social anxiety to the point where I could barely interact with people. However, after I got a job again, earning more than I ever have, I slowly began to overcome it. I still struggle with life, but I have improved by about 90% and am working on the remaining 10%. Story 39. It is difficult because I live in Venezuela. There are days I go without eating, and I have not been able to find a remote job since January, which is my only hope for living decently. Story 40. Could you please upvote me? I want to post on this channel, but I cannot yet. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Story 41. Personally, I feel better, but why is no one concerned about the fact that prices for goods are still so high? It's a complete deception. Story 42. I had social skills before COVID-19. I could easily become friends with anyone. Now, I find it difficult to talk to others, which is really frustrating. If COVID-19 had not happened, I believe I would have friends and possibly a girlfriend. I'm working on overcoming my social anxiety now. Story 43. Do you know what I wish? I wish I had invested my COVID money into the stock market when it was crashing, gone on affordable cruises, and traveled inexpensively on vacation instead of staying in my house. Now I make more money, but I can't afford to live. Story 44. I had 2 children after years of infertility. I transitioned from a toxic work environment to a much better role, along with a raise and a hybrid work-from-home schedule. I refinanced my house, saving $500 a month, totaling a savings of $24,000 so far. Overall, I am much better off. Story 45. My dad died of COVID and leukemia 2.5 years into it all, and my brother is still a stubborn right-winger whom I have since removed from my life. I am not better off in those ways. Story 46. I was essential. Life has been the same. The only thing I miss is the lack of traffic and unpleasant individuals out and about. Story 47. Life is absolutely challenging. I am earning more than I ever have in my life, yet I have the same spending power as when I started my career 7 years ago. Story 48. How is life 5 years after every major world government misled us about the source of a global disease outbreak, and the United States government allowed pharmaceutical companies to profit from us? Not promising. Story 49. I had a much more active social life before the pandemic. I went out with friends regularly, and we had parties and get-togethers for crafting days. I am still struggling to reclaim that social life and am actively making plans to go out, meet up, and visit people. However, socializing feels very exhausting now, and working from home since 2020 can make me feel isolated at times. Story 50. I started a new career during the height of COVID, and I am proud to say I am flourishing. My wife and I no longer live in apartments. We have our own house, and all our debt is paid off except for the mortgage. We no longer live paycheck to paycheck, and we have over $10,000 in savings. This is a first for me in a long time. Things are slowly getting better for us. Story 51. It is far worse as populism takes over, and we will see lower living standards throughout the Western world. Politicians and billionaires need to be held accountable. Story 52. It was rough. I moved into a trailer in a rural area 3 years ago and spent the last bit of money I had on trade show booths for my construction company, which was nothing more than a limited liability company registered at an address with a trailer and a shop on it. I sold my motorcycle to stay afloat while I pursued the leads I received. I now have a 5-star rating, am licensed in 3 states and moving toward a 4th, with a foreign limited liability company registered in all of them. Business is starting to boom. I have $150,000 in my operating account and $9.18 in my personal account. I owe a little over $40,000 on 14 acres, own my truck, a used backhoe and skid steer, a trailer to transport them, and all the tools I need, with sub-agreements in place and projects in 2 states across 3 cities. All of this was achieved through a desperate move to stay afloat and avoid having a paycheck held over my head. I am frustrated with the pandemic, but it was worth it. Plus, I got my motorcycle back. So I have that going for me. Story 53. As a whole, we are much worse off. It is quite depressing, as my hope was that COVID might bring us together, but it has been very much the opposite. Story 54. I am angrier. I am completely fed up with our entire system. I am not better off, even though I should be based on my life choices. Instead, I feel punished by individuals who want to turn the United States into a playground for billionaires. I did everything right. I have the skills, I found a well-paying job, I got married, and I have children. I cannot afford a house. There is no future in my retirement, and education is being dismantled, putting my children's future in jeopardy. It is disgusting. I am dismayed by my fellow countrymen and women. I am disheartened by people. The world has gotten worse, and it seems that people are becoming more ignorant by the day. Story 55. I was better off before Trump took the presidency in 2025. Stocks are declining along with a number of other negative impacts. He is just getting started tearing the nation apart. Additionally, COVID-19 is no longer a significant concern, and the return to the office is increasing again, thanks to Trump and his supporters. Story 56. I am truly upset. Please excuse my anger, but it has had a significant impact on my life. I contracted COVID-19 in December 2020 and dealt with it for 2 weeks. A couple of months later, I was diagnosed with severe gastroesophageal reflux disease. Subsequently, I developed a hiatal hernia that caused me to vomit every night, regardless of which side I slept on or even when using a wedge pillow. I had surgery last October to correct this issue, but I feel like I wasted 4 years of my life, only managing to sleep 4 hours a day in 2-hour increments. I still have not regained my sense of smell. Someone can pass gas next to me, and I wouldn't even notice. This loss has diminished my appetite since I struggle to taste food. Additionally, my testosterone levels have decreased due to the lack of sleep and proper nutrition, leading to persistent body aches and very little energy. It has been a continuing nightmare that I am still grappling with to this day. Story 57. I feel relatively the same. One thing I have noticed, however, is that people have become ruder and less considerate of others after COVID-19, in my opinion. Story 58. I have been living a hermit lifestyle since 2016. The COVID-19 pandemic allowed me to give myself permission to enjoy this lifestyle even more by being able to order my groceries. Depending on how I feel about driving, I either go pick them up or have them delivered. I now only leave my house for doctor's appointments and when I want to. Story 59. I feel like I'm living in a dull version of hell. Everything is more expensive, local businesses are still struggling from the impact of COVID-19, and many have shut down. The job market has deteriorated, tensions seem to be at an all-time high both domestically and internationally, and the National Health Service is struggling with a backlog. I lost my dog to old age, my uncle to chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and my mother to cancer in less than a year, and the list of losses continues. The world feels crueler, and I feel more exhausted. Story 60. Earning more, working from home from a beautiful location, and having money to spare. But somehow I am not happy. This has put a strain on everything, relationships and society. A podcast I listened to recently pointed out that there was a greater public outpouring of grief for Princess Diana than for the 7 million deaths from COVID-19. I believe that demonstrates something. I just don't know what. Story 61. I'm an intensive care unit nurse who graduated at the beginning of COVID-19 and was thrown into a challenging situation. I lost ages 21 to 25 and never really got the fun, spontaneous experiences of my early 20s. I often mourn what that part of my life could have been. However, I did meet the love of my life during this time, and he kept me grounded. We are getting married in August. Story 62. Currently, my body is in a state of uncontrolled illness that cannot be defined. I am facing lifelong disability and early death. 5 years ago, I relocated to a new life because pandemic rules took away my job and my ability to earn extra income. Then I got sick. No one knows for certain if my disability is connected to that situation, but I suspect that none of this was natural. This has left me in financial ruin. An attempt on my own life brought me clarity. I pretend to be well during my therapy sessions just to get through them. No one understands this. I feel like I am at rock bottom in my life. Story 63. I'm pretty sure my memory has taken a hit. I often feel that I'm not fully present, as if part of my mind is hibernating while the rest is scrambling to pick up the slack. Some days are really tough. Story 64. This decade lacks distinction or character. It is essentially 2015 but much worse, impacted by COVID-19, artificial intelligence technology, and ineffective governments. Story 65. Better, but it was a difficult journey. The whole story, back when COVID started, I was just a teenager with big dreams and many plans. I wanted to conquer the world, so to speak. But then, with the pandemic, everything changed. The pandemic flipped my life upside down. I started having dark, suicidal thoughts that I couldn't escape. Not long after, I was diagnosed with schizophrenia. My parents, scared for my life, decided to pull me out of school. At the time, I was furious with them. I felt betrayed, hurt, and like I had lost the small shred of control I still had over my life. Funnily enough, that decision probably saved me. I had been secretly planning to end my life, and their intervention happened just weeks before I was going to go through with it. But staying alive didn't feel like any kind of victory in the beginning. I kept spiraling, angry at the world, at myself, and at everyone around me. The antipsychotics left me a shell of myself, numb and 70 pounds heavier. I hated everything and blamed everyone, hoping I'd die sooner rather than later. I barely existed, and for a long time I didn't even care if I made it through the day. But life kept happening. Some people stayed. Surprisingly, annoyingly, lovingly, they stayed. My family never gave up on me, even when I felt like a burden. Slowly, I began to notice small things. A kind word here, a moment of laughter there. Bit by bit, I started to realize how loved I truly am. Instead of fighting that love, I began to let it in. I met amazing people who saw the real me, not some diagnosis or broken version of who I used to be. They helped me believe in life again, helped me believe I was still enough. Now, I'm studying my dream subject at my hometown's university, surrounded by family and friends who make me feel like I truly belong. I'm not the person I was before all of this, but that's okay. I'd argue that's the best thing about it. I'm a much better man. I've let go of the bitterness and anger I carried for so long, and for the first time in years, I can genuinely say I love the life I'm living. I still have those dark thoughts from time to time. I still lack motivation and ambition, and I should probably start working out again. But despite all that, I'm overflowing with gratitude for the life I've been granted. Story 66. Worse off. My dad and grandpa died 2 weeks apart from one another from COVID, so we had back-to-back funerals. Now they are buried next to each other. My dad was only 58 and he was my best friend. Story 67. I have long COVID in addition to existing health problems that are worsening, so I often feel like I have the flu. It definitely feels worse. Several people I know have experienced similar issues around the same time, leading me to wonder if there is a direct link. A study on long COVID clusters would be interesting. Story 68. I had my dream job in 2019 and 2020 as a scooter mechanic in a college town, where I got paid to ride around on 50 cubic centimeter scooters all day. Then COVID-19 hit, and the shop closed temporarily. Weeks turned into months, and I switched careers. I have been doing industrial maintenance and heating, ventilation, and air conditioning for 5 years now. I met my now wife in the summer of 2020. The only thing we could do with everything closed was take the boat out on the river, so we spent that first summer sunburned and hungover. We got engaged on a cruise in 2023, got married in 2024, and the honeymoon is in a few weeks. Life definitely got better for me. However, from March to October 2020 was rough as I burned through all my savings to stay afloat. Story 69. It was challenging at first when the COVID-19 pandemic occurred. Many employees who were nearing retirement decided to leave, and our substitutes filled those positions. As a result, I found myself working 70 to 80-hour weeks due to the staffing shortages. It was difficult, but I persevered. Now I earn approximately $70,000 a year, and thanks to the overtime I worked for 4 years, I was able to buy a house. It was an exhausting experience, but it ultimately paid off. Story 70. I genuinely feel like I have missed time. Working with children has become very challenging since COVID-19 due to changes in parenting and culture. Story 71. Invested a substantial amount in stocks during COVID-19 and effectively increased my initial investment sixfold, becoming mortgage-free. Thank you, COVID-19. Story 72. Much better. I'm not a misguided teenager doing everything wrong or a miserable alcoholic. I have an apartment and am completing a certificate program before pursuing a degree, so I'm making positive progress now. Story 73. Doing all right. I have contracted COVID-19 4 times since 2020 but have kept up to date with boosters. I have a new job with great benefits. I am engaged to be married in July, and my mental health is improving. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder a couple of years ago, and it changed my life completely, but I have worked through a lot of my frustration and stagnation. How are you? Story 74. I was initially struggling and doing seasonal landscaping work before becoming a manager at a cannabis company. On January 1st, 2020, I was broke and searching for jobs. On February 1st, 2020, I was hired as a security guard at a cannabis store. By April 1st, 2020, I became the acting manager. By the end of September 2021, I had a salary job and purchased a 4-bedroom house. Since then, I have a new car, lost 65 pounds, my salary has increased nearly 200% from my initial contract, and they pay for my vacation every second year. COVID-19 changed my life. Story 75. Better in some ways, having finally cleaned up all my finances. It has really been the years since I got everything straightened out. However, I am worse off due to the increased cost of living, while wages have remained flat or have decreased. Story 76. Far better. I am not glad that COVID happened at all, but some significant life changes occurred, at least in part, because of it. Story 77. I am probably better off. In fact, yes, I'm better off. I moved in with my girlfriend after getting engaged. Everything was going fine until COVID-19 and lockdowns turned her into a bit of a lunatic. At one point, she suggested that when I got home from work, I needed to strip in the garden and wipe down before coming into the house. Absolutely not. There was more, much more, and all of this was coming from someone who received daily deliveries of unnecessary items. I couldn't stand it any longer. The true colors of her paranoia shone through. I had to get out of the house as I couldn't tolerate it anymore. The dog went on very long summer walks with me and was living its best life. I moved back into my own place, and that was that. Story 78. I finished my PhD and work in scientific research. I knew we would be affected by the economic impact, but things are getting worse all the time. Story 79. I have been on sick leave twice in the past 5 years due to burnout. Before COVID-19, I had never experienced burnout. My anxiety and depression have worsened, and mentally I have never fully recovered. Story 80. I never contracted COVID because I had crippling anxiety, and my manageable obsessive-compulsive disorder became overwhelming. The stress alone made me ill, causing significant weight loss and hair loss. I was also dealing with precancer, and trying to get treatment before vaccines became available was traumatic. My relationship fell apart, and I felt like a prisoner in my own home with my partner. I haven't fully recovered. Being in public still triggers my anxiety. I have a few people I consider safe, which allows me to be social every few months. My health has not improved. I have been struggling with chronic fatigue and widespread pain. That's just the surface of my situation. I wish I could return to the person I was before 2020. The disturbing turn of events is that my precancer progressed to cancer. So yes, not great. Story 81. I'm lucky to be young and healthy, but the isolation didn't really help me in retrospect, and the pricing on everything is challenging. I'm just hopeful for the future. How about you? Story 82. For the most part, it is essentially the same. Financially, there is a slight improvement. Otherwise, not much else has changed. Story 83, yes and no. Everything fell apart when it started. But I am slowly working my way out of the pit of despair that is my life. Story 84, I am slightly better. Compared to where I was at the end of 2019, I am significantly improved. I have a foundation of stability and function in my life that I was long overdue for. Story 85, I am better off honestly. I lost my job of nearly 20 years and struggled for 1 or 2 years to find my footing in my career, but I think I have finally found it. I also worked through many issues within myself that needed to be addressed. Story 86. Thankfully, things are better. Working from home is great. I have also started consulting instead of being permanently employed. Story 87. It ruined my profession worse than the cruise industry for 3 straight years. We went through half of our only retirement between us and went deeply into debt as well. We can never recover, no matter what, at our age. Story 88. I have a Master of Business Administration now, but I wish I could go back. Earning a Master of Business Administration is much harder than finding work before I completed my bachelor's degree. Story 89. I accomplished many projects over the past 5 years. This experience ranks right up there with earning my Bachelor of Science degree and certifications. I overcame my significant fear of horses after friends encouraged me to go on a trail ride. I ended up enjoying it, which led to riding lessons, riding in rivers, and riding faster. Last fall, I participated in my first parade. This experience changed my perspective on many things, and others have noticed how it opened a completely new world for me. Story 90. I benefited from the real estate boom. My husband and I had already purchased a home and 2 investment properties. Then we upgraded from our starter home, which we kept, into a larger home to fit our family in July 2020. Our net worth is now greater than I imagined it would be at this age. However, I believe much of that was luck, and I am seriously worried about the housing crisis and the lack of affordability in this country. I feel slightly guilty to have benefited from real estate, even though I believe private equity, not small landlords, is the root cause of the problem. Story 91. I am much worse off financially, socially, and emotionally. Life has become considerably more expensive in every aspect. Travel is out of the question. I have lost friends due to many factors, mainly isolation and strong differences of opinion on vaccinations and government policies. Life feels colder now. People seem more hateful in general. But as the meme says, the horrors persist, but so do I. Story 92. Better, but only because of decisions I made. Ending a relationship, starting a career, clearing debt. The things COVID actually affected, such as the economy and public consciousness, have gotten worse. I never caught it, so it had no effect on my health. Story 93. I earn more money than ever before. I have bought a house, and I have a family, but I am closer to losing everything than I was 5 years ago. Story 94. I am better off financially because I was furloughed, which led me to completely change my career path and end up in a role I really enjoy. It's remote, so I can spend more time with my dog. I overcame my fear of flying, which reminded me to pursue what I want and see the world while I can. I travel solo a lot. On the other hand, one of my best friends passed away due to COVID-19. I don't have the social connections I used to have. When I'm not engaged in something exciting on my own, I'm most likely doing nothing at all. My view of people and the world is much more negative than it used to be. I've lost faith that I will ever see a better planet. Story 95. Saved $6,000 a year by not having to commute. Income is 65% higher than January 2020. Somehow, it still feels harder, and I can't afford the lifestyle I once had. Story 96. Generally better off. It didn't have any real negative effect on my life. Thankfully, my job can be done fully remote, so I could continue more or less as before. Story 97. Personal life is better in just about every way. I changed careers during the first wave of post-COVID rehiring. Remote work is a game changer. I got serious and moved in with my partner, got a dog, and purchased a Jeep. As for the outside world, I still believe it is deteriorating rapidly. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.